I'm pleased to be here, Pete.
Pete, thank you. That's my new name. I love it.
Welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. Here's your host, Scott Cowan.
Welcome back to this episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast. My guest is Jeff Garretson, the general manager of the Yakima Valley Pippins. Everyone should applaud me for getting that out of my mouth without stumbling on it too much.
But you said Garretson.
Jeff, please correct me publicly. Say your name for us.
It's Garretson.
Garretson.
I think that's right. I hope it's right.
Jeff is insisting that his name is Garretson. That's what we're going to say. Jeff Garretson. I can't say it. We're going to leave this in. We're just going to go. Jeff, welcome. Thank you for allowing me to bumble my way through an introduction.
I'm pleased to be here, Pete.
Pete, thank you. That's my new name. I love it. All right. So it's Jeff and Pete show. Okay. So Jeff, you're the GM for the Yakima Valley Pippins. Let's start with the backstory. How did you take on this position? What led you to being this job?
The official explanation of how this happened just sort of fell backwards into it. When the Pippins came to town in 2014, I was working at the Yakima Herald-Republic. I was news editor there. Before that, I worked in various other capacities there. I originally got my start there in sports. And one day, the operations director called me and said, "Hey, I'm looking for someone to be the official scorer. Do you know anyone who's qualified?" And despite what people think, scoring a baseball game is not easy, and I'm very particular on that because everybody thinks that they can do that. Of course, in this day and age, we all think that we can do everything, right?
YouTube. Look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Great resource, and you can learn to score on YouTube, but still, it really is like playing the game itself. It's really a skill. And I said, I really don't know anybody who I would totally trust to do it, but hey, let me see if I'm available and I'll let you know. And I checked with my boss. My boss was fine with it. And I said, hey, I'll do it. I've got a job, so I'll just do it on my own time and happy to help out. So that's how I got started the first year with the Pippins. I was just the official scorer. That winter, the president of the two teams that we have in the West Coast League, the Walla Walla Sweets, who were founded in 2010, and the Pippins. His name is Zachary Frazier. He came to town during the winter between the 14 and 15 seasons, and I knew he was coming to town, so we just grabbed lunch. And at that time, the beat writer for the Pippins, a good friend of mine, Roger Underwood, he had covered the team in the first year. And I told Zachary at lunch, I said, hey, at some point, Roger's going to ask you about how your search for a new GM is going. The GM in 2014, Danny Tetzloff, he's the GM for the Everett Aqua Sox. He was assistant GM here when the Yakima Bears were here back in the early 2000s. Great baseball guy. And Danny had decided to move along. So I said, hey, Roger's going to ask what's going on with the GM position. And Zachary just point blank said, why, are you interested? And I just kind of laughed and smiled at him and said, no, I've got a full-time job. I'm very happy with what I'm doing. And we just kind of dropped it from there. And then it kind of stuck in my mind, in the back of my mind a little bit. And a couple months later, he was back in town. I think it was around March. And he brought it up again and just said, hey, I'm gonna be, acting GM for the Pippins this summer, but I'm going to have to hire someone soon moving into the next year. So if you're interested in that, let me know and we should talk about it. And I thought about it a little bit more and we started talking about it. And because I worked in a media organization, it was a little interesting trying to traverse keeping something private like that while we were going through discussions, and then kind of announcing it. And that's a whole different story. But it was something that I thought long and hard about, and I just decided, hey, if I'm ever going to make a career change, this is the time to do it. And things just fell into place happily, luckily, and I've been there ever since. So it's been one heck of a ride so far.
Okay. Question I'm asking all of your peers is, what's a typical day for you? Like right now that we're recording this, it's early April. What's a typical April day look like for you?
Well, my April days this year and my March days and my late February days this year have been anything but typical. We have been undergoing a construction project, actually 2 construction projects out at the stadium since late February. So it's basically 10:30 in the morning right now. I've been out at the stadium since around 6:30 this morning, getting construction folks into the stadium, then running back home because we're about to lose power out at the stadium for the next 2 days. So, really, I think you've probably heard this from most people. There is no such thing as a typical day. Every day has kind of the same elements, especially in the off season. You're always selling a product or approaching new people about whatever the product is, whether it's sponsorship or tickets or a group night or getting a promotion lined up or something like that. But that's, I think to me, that is part of the fun of the whole process, because there is not a typical day. And if you get bogged down in one area, or you just need a break from one area, you have so many other things that you can be doing that you're always in a mode where you can find something to re-energize and refresh yourself. And I think that that's one of the most fun things about the job, especially in the off season. You kind of make your own day. You know what you need to get done, but how you approach it physically, how you approach it mentally, how you approach it emotionally is totally up to you. And that's one of the things that's very exciting to me almost every day.
Now, Jeff, I'm going to tell you that all your counterparts said they have very structured days, very predictable days. I'm kidding.
I don't believe that at all.
I'm completely kidding. All of you have said, it's almost like you've all scripted the answer. I kid, but everybody has referenced that. You work on this for a while, you set that aside, you go over here, you work on something else, this comes up, you take it, and it's, if you're bored, give it 15 minutes, you'll have a new, something completely new will pop. And not that you're bored, but something will change. It's like the joke about Seattle. If you don't like the weather, it'll change in 15 minutes. You're fine. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's my life in the media, which I also loved very much and really could have, I could still be there today if this opportunity hadn't come along. One of the things that did not change in that job is it was very structured. You do this, you do this, you do this. It's coming up on Christmas, so you're going to do these types of stories, human interest stories. You're going to do this during the summer. You're going to do this during election season. And it's the same thing year in and year out. There's really not a lot of variety. But in this job, there is a ton of variety. And for someone who, loves the excitement of change, and I do love change, every day is something just can be totally different. And I adapt to that very well. A lot of people don't like change and don't like being out of that structure, but I love it when things go off the rails, because really as GMs in our ballparks as GMs, that's what happens or what can happen every night. And it's up to us to quickly identify the problems, pivot on a dime, and fix them. And, whether it's the GM of a baseball team, whether it's someone who's running, Key Arena, the Sun Dome here in Yakima, a theater, it's the stuff that goes wrong that you have to keep from everyone else. You keep the fans, you keep the guests happy, and they're totally unaware of the chaos that is going on around them. But that's the exciting part to me. And if everything is falling apart and nobody knows, then you've been a success. If you can fix it and the show goes on. So that's the fun to me.
Okay. You mentioned stadium renovations. What's going to be what renovations are currently in process with the ballpark?
So this ballpark was built in 1993, and the first part of the construction renovations was replacing all of the old seats. So that project actually just wrapped up a day and a half ago. So there are new chairback seats. They're the same style of seat that is in T-Mobile Park. Green Legends Hussey seats. And the green color matches our team colors. I'm very happy about that. So that was the first project that took about 5.5 weeks from start to finish. And they even took a week off in between there. So that was the first part. The second part, there are some structural repairs that were needed that are not fan-facing. Just parts of the stadium, the roofing on some of the offices and rooms underneath the stands, in the concession stands, the clubhouse. That project is currently undergoing continuing process. New paint job, some upgrades around other portions of the stadium that people will see. But in the end, that's supposed to be done by the end of April. And at our meeting this morning, everything appears to be on track. So just a lot of different work that is much needed out there. And, thanks to Yakima County for finding a way to get that done. But I think the fan experience is going to be increased. I think the fans will really enjoy it. And, every time everything gets a new paint job, it's like it's brand new. So that's, right. I can't complain about that either.
No, that's exciting. I want to come back to your typical day. So I'm going to hold you to remind me to that, but let's go back to 2014. How did the Pippins come to play ball in the West Coast League? What was the impetus there that brought them to life?
So when the Yakima Bears came back to town in 1990, they were a short season A affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers. They played at Yakima Valley College at Parker Field. And the owners at that time, they wanted their own place to play. So the county had some leftover money from the Sundome construction project that had been completed a couple years earlier. And they got some additional funding. And so they were able to carve out a little tract of land at State Fair Park. And the county stadium was built in 93, and the Bears played there from 93 until 2012. Because of changing minor league baseball standards, there are certain standards for stadiums. They want their professional players to play in, professional parks. Some of those standards had changed over the years since County Stadium had originally been built, and there was just no upgrade path that was pleasing to the team, the taxpayers, the county, the city. And so unfortunately, the team decided to relocate, and they moved to Hillsboro, Oregon. They're now the Hillsboro Hops. Same management there. But for, close to, 20 years, they provided an entry back into professional baseball for Yakima. So they left after the 2012 season, and in 2013, the field at County Stadium just remained dormant, except for the high school 1A and 2A state championships that have been played out there for most years, COVID notwithstanding. In 2013, the stadium was just down, and the ownership group of the Walla Walla Sweets decided, hey, they were interested in fielding another team. They entered into negotiations, which took a while, as these things do, to see if County Stadium was available, and it turns out that it was, and they came to an agreement, and the Pippins were born and started play in early June in 2014. And, for me, for someone who's been in baseball all my life, kind of born into a baseball family, there's nothing better than having baseball in town, no matter what level. And what I grew up around and what my dad, my grandfather were heavily involved in was American Legion baseball here in town. And so, those are all high school kids, and playing their hearts out every summer, trying to get into college ball, eventually hoping to get into pro ball. And so, as much as exciting as it was to get the Bears back into town, and to have them out at County Stadium when they left, and the West Coast League through the Pippins came to town, that was something that really resonated with me. And that first night, on opening night, as I'm official scorer that first night, I'm sitting right next to the beat writer, Roger Underwood, and I would mention to him, as we were just sort of surveying and taking in the whole experience, there were 3,200 people there that night. And it was just crazy fun. But I said to him, there's something, I can't put my finger on this, but there's something different about this than what was the Bears. And when the Bears came back to town, I was actually the beat writer for the first 2.5, 3 seasons for them. Okay. And I just told Roger, there's just something different about this. The vibe is different about what's going on the field. And it took me several weeks to figure it out. And it's later in the summer, and Roger and I, as we're talking every night, I just said, okay, I figured this out. I said, this is reminding me of Legion baseball. This reminds me of what I spent my childhood wandering around stadiums when Dad was coaching, and my brother and I were bat boys, or we were, doing whatever we were doing when we were younger around the stadium. And that's the vibe that it gave me. And it felt to me much more natural, much more Yakima, much more home to me than I had felt in a long time being around a game. And so that's kind of the vibe that I'm trying to continue out there. And I think that for the most part we have. There are always things that we do differently every year. We just try things. But that's kind of how I expect the experience to be every single day, every single night out there for me.
Okay. Well, let's come back now to a typical day. I know you're going to tell me there's no such thing, but what's a typical day for you during the season? How early are you showing up to the park, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay, this is where I will be different from the other GMs in the league. I typically get to the park on game days, like I have been the last several weeks. I'm usually there by 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I have my own ritual of going through the ballpark every single day, and it's been that way since I've been younger. When my grandfather, when he was out of coaching but was the groundskeeper at Parker Field for the Legion team, sometimes my brother and I would go with him, and he'd go out to the field early and get things, mow the outfield, get things done. And I'm very much in that same mindset. I get to the field really early, whether we've played the night before or whether it's the first game of a homestand. And I especially at County Stadium, I have a specific path that I go, and I unlock the doors that need to get unlocked. I unlock the elevator. I go up into the stadium bowl. I walk around, just see if there's anything out of place. I grab the flags. I walk around behind the stadium, put up the flags. So, the flags are up by 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning for a game that doesn't start for 12 hours later. And then, I just sort of take in that peaceful moment. And that really starts my day. And it makes for a really long day. But by the time that I'm leaving at 10:30, 11:30 at night, and doing the same thing the next day, I really don't get tired of that. By 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, as game day employees are starting to show up and interns are well into their routine of getting things set up, I've already put in 8-9 hours at the ballpark, but I don't feel tired. I don't feel overwhelmed by anything. It's just always been part of my life and how I grew up. And so I connect with the ballpark in that way. And it really makes things much more peaceful for me. It helps me keep my sanity because I know that things are going to start going in many different directions in just an hour or 2 hours later once teams show up, players show up. And so, that's how I keep my feet grounded throughout a normal day. I just start really early. There's always something to do at the ballpark. There's always a phone call to answer, an email to answer, someone to reach out to. So for me, that's what I'm doing right now with long days. I just continue that through the summer. And then I think at some point in mid to late August, I just collapse and go into a coma for several weeks. But, that's a different story.
Okay. If I were to come down to the ballpark, July, August, just arbitrarily, middle of summer, what am I going to experience at a Pippins game that I'm not going to experience at another team in the West Coast League?
I think for the most part, you're going to get the same vibe because we're all trying to go for that same vibe. These are college athletes who are trying to get to the next level. So there's a ton of heart, there's a ton of energy, there's a ton of excitement that resonate from the baseball operations side, the team side. But really what we're going for here in Yakima is, just a place for everyone to gather. We're trying to make County Stadium a gathering point all summer long. It's not really you're going out to watch a ball game, although that's kind of why we're all there. But more than that, it's just a place to congregate and to relax and to have a good time with friends and family. There's an excitement there, obviously, if you're there and, we hit a walk-off home run and in front of a crowd of 2,000, 2,500 people, and everyone's just going crazy. And there's a ton of excitement around that. But in that same scenario, that walk-off homer that just clears the fence to win it for the home team, down the road, that home run suddenly becomes a 500-foot blast, and it knocked down a shed in the outfield, and you embellish how much fun it was, and nobody remembers the score. Eventually you forget who hit the home run, but that ball just keeps going farther and farther and farther and farther.
It's still traveling.
Yeah, I'm sure it's knocking satellites out of orbit at some level. But, you forget the specific details of that. You do remember that memory, but you do tend to embellish it. But what you will never forget is if your kid catches a foul ball, or your grandchild, gets an autograph of his or her favorite player. Or grandpa comes back and sits down and, sits on his cotton candy or something like that. Those family memories, those memories with friends. If you're out there on a thirsty Thursday and someone rolls the dice on the seventh inning and wins $500, you're not going to forget those experiences because you're not there for the team in that instant. You're there for your friends. You're there for your family. And those are the types of memories that you're always going to take with you. Whether it's at a Christmas dinner or a 4th of July barbecue or on Easter or whatever, a birthday, someone's going to bring up that memory, and it's going to tie the family closer together, or it's going to tie your friend group closer together. And so hopefully what you're getting when you come out to a Pippins game every summer is seeing beyond why you're buying a ticket or why you're buying the hot dog, and using that opportunity to connect with friends and family a little bit, in a different way, in a fun environment, in a relaxed environment. Things have become, especially after the last couple of years, and we know society has tended to become more and more polarized even before COVID. But one of the things that COVID really took away from all of us is the chance to play. And for different people, that means different things. For athletes, you didn't have a chance to play a game. But for people who enjoy going to a theater, and that is their way to play, they couldn't do that either. We couldn't go outside in groups to play outside or go to the park and things like that. We had to pretty much be siloed. And so we all really lost that opportunity to play together in whatever shape or form that took. And I think that as we try and get back into more of a normal sense of what our lives used to be, having a gathering spot around a game, which is, not designed to be slower, but it's slower than basketball. It's slower than football. You can get up and walk away for an inning and come back, and you really haven't missed much. You can get up from a football game and go get a hot dog or whatever and come back, and you've missed 3 scoring plays and you don't know what the heck's going on anymore. But hopefully that's what you've got the opportunity to do when you come to a Pippins game. We've got great nights here. We've got great sunsets. Sometimes it's a little bit hotter than we like. One game last year, we started at 9:00 because it was 110 degrees that day, and it was still around 98 at first pitch. But you still have that opportunity to sit and relax and wind down and just have fun out there. And that's really what I'm hoping that people will take from that, the chance to build those memories rather than, just going out to a ball game for a couple hours and then forgetting about it. I want you to build and leave with something personal to you for being with us and letting us provide that opportunity and that outlet.
On average, how many people are attending Pippins? I know it's kind of hard with COVID and all that, but what's a good crowd for the Pippins?
In our first 7 years, we're averaging over 1,200 people a night. Okay. And that runs the gamut. You'll get 2,000, 2,200, 2,500 on opening nights, and you'll get a good crowd on 4th of July and closing night. And, if it's really hot, some nights you'll get 800 to 1,000 people.
I was going to say that 9 p.m. start time, you might have lost a few folks.
Yeah, we did lose a few folks then. But you kind of expect those nights too. It's no different than if it's going to be rainy, which during the summer we don't get a lot of rain here in Yakima, which is fine by me. But 1,400 people is a good size crowd. And then on our bigger nights, on our giveaway nights, on our fireworks night, 17, 2,000, 22, 2,500. Those are really fun nights too. They keep you hopping.
Right. So since you're a newer team, I don't know if there's an answer, or I don't know if you can answer this question completely yet. Has any of the Pippins former players made it to the show?
Yes, we've had 3 pitchers who have made it to the majors.
Okay.
Eli Morgan is playing for Cleveland. Wyatt Mills was on the Mariners roster last year. And it's funny that the three major league players that we've had are all pitchers, because you would expect that it would be easier potentially for a position player to make it, not a pitcher. So one of the things that has caught the attention of us here is, hey, we've got three pitchers up there, or now or in the past that have been up there. So that is different, and I wasn't really expecting that. We had the league MVP in 2014, Vince Fernandez, was an outfielder, and he was league MVP, and so we thought, oh well, this guy's he's gonna make it in a few years, and lo and behold, a few years later, it was a pitcher, number one. I think he went up there in 2019, so 5 years after we started. But that was kind of surprising. But who knows what will happen in the future? Last summer, we had an outfielder who came out of nowhere, a great kid, Noah Williamson. He was drafted by the Marlins in the 19th round, and he signed. He signed late in July, and he was the second player who was drafted during the season to sign and leave the team. So as minor league baseball is starting tomorrow, April 8th, and major leagues are starting today, we'll see who the next one is that rises to the ranks. But
it's kind of exciting to watch.
It is. When the Bears were here, those were all short season A players, and on opening night in 1990, there was a pitcher that started for Yakima, Pedro Estacio, and he just threw lights out that night, and was just great to watch. And after that homestand, the Bears went on the road, and then the Bears came back, and people who had not seen Pedro pitch on opening night, they were saying, hey, you got to come watch this guy pitch. This is going to be great. You're going to love it. And as happens in the minor leagues, Pedro was called up. He was gone, never pitched in Yakima again. So if you didn't see him that first night in Yakima, you never got to see him. That's just how professional baseball works. And it's great for the players who continue to work up the ranks and live out their dream. It's not exactly the best fan experience for those people who want to see them in their hometown park. The difference that we have is that the players, notwithstanding what I just said about Noah a few minutes ago, but the players that come to us from colleges around the West, around the country, they're pretty much with us throughout the entire summer, unless they get hurt or they're just on a short-term contract with us for whatever reason. But most of the time they're around all summer, and that really helps bind not only the sport of baseball to the community, but it allows the fans to really develop that relationship with the player as well, even if they just see them on the field or get a chance to talk to them or get an autograph with them one night or a couple of nights after a game. That really means a lot to not just fans, but to the community as well. And so, not just for Yakima, but for all of the other teams in the league, one of the things that the league tracks is, how many players do we have in the major leagues? How many players do we have every year that get drafted? Look at what's happening in each of these ballparks and each of these teams, because you're seeing tomorrow's potential major league players right here, and we're helping them along their development, both as as baseball players and as young men, as individuals, as future community leaders, future dads, future husbands. It's really the ground level for this. And I think that in smaller communities, outside the metro areas, that's really what connects the sport of baseball to America. And there's a lot of talk, well, baseball's not America's pastime anymore. And that may be true, that may not be true, but baseball is more successful in those smaller communities where the sport really becomes part of the community and part of the roots of the community. And for me here, for someone who was born and raised in Yakima, baseball has always been part of my life, even when I wasn't around it. So it's just one of those things that, really grounds you in the community that you live in. And I think that that's what makes it more fun for everybody, not just Yakima and the players that we have in the pros, but the whole league as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I that was beautifully said. I'm going to ask you the question. I've asked this of everybody. I've been surprised by the answer. The Pippins. I believe sports have to have rivals. I think a league has to, the Yankees, love them or hate them, they're great for the sport of baseball. Okay? They just are. Who's the Pippins rival?
Well, we don't have to look too far down the road for that. Our sibling team, the Walla Walla Sweets, our older sibling, they are very much our rival. This year, in fact, we're kind of building a rivalry series. The GM there is, one of my close friends. I love working with them. He had an intern down there. Cody had an intern down there that is now my ticket guy. I had an intern in 2019 who worked for me, who is now Cody's ticket guy. So, we're very close, and we work very closely in the off season and still during the season. But once, you put that all aside once the game starts. And so from a rivalry perspective, we always want to beat the other part of the family.
Okay.
That being said, in this league, and I'm sure you've gotten this before, everybody also always wants to beat Corvallis too, because they've won the championship now 5 years in a row. So it's everybody versus Corvallis. And those of us who work together as GMs, we always nudge each other from time to time about things like that. It's all in good fun. We all know that as much as we want to win, and it is much more than just a point of pride to win for our communities, we also want to have the best league, the best summer collegiate league in the country, and provide the best opportunity for players. So as much as we rib each other, and as much as we want to beat our rivals, Wenatchee is just a couple hours north of me. So there's, same as Walla Walla's a couple hours south of me.
Right.
We want to beat the teams that are closest to us, our closest rivals in the league. So, I would stick with Walla Walla for me, but, you want to beat everybody when they come to town, and when you really want to beat them when you go to their place, because it just makes it so much sweeter.
Well said. I'm going to make you listen to Cody's episode so you can hear what Cody said. Well said.
I will ask him first so I can prepare for that.
Yeah, it was all good. No, but so as I've become more informed about the league, some of the takeaways I have is, number one, I'm very impressed with the camaraderie within the league between the teams, as far as wanting to put the best product on the field for multitudes of reasons, to have the best collegiate league. all of those things. Everyone is saying the same thing, and I truly, it feels so authentic when you say it, and when everybody's saying it, that you are a very collaborative league. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you're not competitive, because you want to win. You want the Pippins to be undefeated in a season. Not going to happen. Baseball, that's just the nature of the sport. So I love the nature of that there's this collaborative back of the house, if you will, nature. And then there's the front of the house competitive nature between the teams. I will say Cody was saying how that they like to bring a bus up to Yakima and make sure that Yakima knows that we're in the house. So, it was good natured. It was, they kind of the same thing, that you're there, but everyone wants to be Corvallis, because currently Corvallis has been the dominant team in the league.
Absolutely. But the other part of that is that, as much as Yakima and Walla Walla want to beat each other, and, the opportunity for the fan bus that Cody was talking about, we've done that in Yakima too. And that's part of what we as an organization, Pacific Baseball Ventures, our parent company, those are some of the things that we try and provide across our company for our fans, because we're in a unique situation. Since the Pippins came into the league in 2014, now there are a couple of other ownership groups in the West Coast League who now have multiple teams as well. But as they're growing into their third, fourth, fifth season, first season in one case with two teams, they'll find the same thing that we have found, that, it's like, well, if Yakima can't win it, then we want Walla Walla to win the whole thing. Or if Walla Walla can't win it, then we want those guys in Yakima to beat everyone else. There's a lot of that. And I've met a lot of fans in Walla Walla over the last several years, because I go down there every year. And there are fans that come up here every year and have met some of my fans. And so even though there's that rivalry, there is still that camaraderie that we're still trying to build within our own teams. And we're lucky enough to be able to kind of cross over to another city that's only a couple hours away from us and build those relationships as well. So it's really it really goes deeper than you would expect it to. And I think that that's one of the things that is really a point of pride for me here, for Cody in Walla Walla, that we're able to build that up in a different way that's, really not anything that we were expecting. The first time I met Cody back in 2017 is when he came up on the fan bus, and he was an intern for them. And Walla Walla wasn't coming to Yakima that year to play the Pippins, but we hosted the All-Star game. And so the Walla Walla fan bus came up for the All-Star game. And we had the Walla Walla mascot, Sweet Lou, up here for that game as well, and the Mariner Moose. So, I mean, there are all those different things that you wouldn't expect to not even see, but not even be a part of. And for both of our teams, we really have that opportunity to do something that goes beyond. And sometimes we don't even know what it's going to turn out to be like. But, the four of us, the two GMs, the two ticket managers in both teams, we have a weekly Zoom every Monday, and we talk more than that, in the off season. And we're like one big team that just plays on two different parks and in sometimes the same night, sometimes different nights. But it really provides us too with the opportunity to have a little bit more of a support system. The ticket guys can call each other. Cody and I can call each other. Hey, what are you doing about this? Hey, I struck out with this idea. What do you think about this? And we can do that with other GMs and other front office people around the league as well. It's just a little deeper within our company that we have that opportunity on a daily basis to connect. And I think that makes it much more special for the front offices and ultimately for the products that we put on the field and the offerings that we have in our stadiums. It just makes it that much more familiar and inviting to me. That's how I approach it.
What sort of outreach do the Pippins do within the community?
We try and do as much as we can. The going beyond, we have baseball camps, of course, and going beyond that, we try to really reach out and provide that experience to people who may not have experienced it before. We've got a great Tickets for Kids program that Washington Fruit is sponsoring this year, where we really try and work with nonprofits and groups that serve underserved communities and underserved kids to get them out to even one ball game and give them a hot dog and a soda and let them and their families experience what we talked about earlier that so many of us take for granted, which is just the opportunity to go to a movie or go to a baseball game. And we don't really give it a second thought. But there are so many people for whatever reason that don't have that opportunity. So we really try and work with others on that. We try and engage with sponsors and other businesses in the community to provide those opportunities for the community at large. One of our sponsors this year for one of our fireworks nights, they've bought 500 tickets that we'll give out to school kids and get them that same experience. And then, we try and really connect with the sports teams, particularly youth baseball teams, little leagues, high school teams, to really not necessarily try and get them out to the game, although that is, something that we always try and do. But we do try and put our best foot forward to show, hey, if you work hard, if you have a goal, if you are dedicated to that goal, this is what you can become. This is, look at these older kids who are in college or just going into college in some cases. Look at where they are right now and how they're trying to focus. West Coast League, you've got to be in college. You've got to have college eligibility. You've got to be in school. You can't just be, a 98 mile an hour phenom who's just sitting at home right now. You're not going to get into this league. So it's really trying to impress on the youth of today's society that working hard, working toward your dreams, working toward a purpose, whatever purpose that may be ultimately, is important. So we try and really reach out to kids that way, and it rubs off too on parents and families as well, what we're trying to do in that regard.
Okay. So questions about you now come back to you. Are you a coffee guy?
Yes, it's 11:15 and I had 2 cups of coffee, before 7:30 this morning. Absolutely.
But have you had any since?
No, I'm taking a break right now. I'm drinking water, but
coffee guys don't drink water.
Well, water is an important part of coffee, so this is just coffee without the caffeine.
Okay. Where's a good place in Yakima for me to go and get a cup of coffee?
There are quite a few. CNS Coffee House is one that I was just at yesterday for my second cup of coffee yesterday morning. CNS took over and rebranded a place that was by my high school called Tom Tom Espresso on 40th Avenue, right by Eisenhower High School. And CNS now runs that. They've got that location. They've got a location out in Terrace Heights. They've got a drive-through location in another part of town. I swing by there quite a bit during the off season. I will take a lot of meetings at the old train depot, Northtown Coffee. So I'm in there quite a bit, meeting with folks. There are lots of places to go and grab coffee. And, as much as coffee is a big part of Seattle, it's also a big part of Yakima. I think everywhere in Washington that you can, if you can't find a place to get coffee, boy, then you're going to another town or something to quickly get some coffee.
It's really quite interesting to me how when I have these conversations, and I love coffee. I'll drink diner coffee. It's not that I'm a coffee snob per se. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love good coffee, but I'll drink diner coffee and be just as happy drinking diner coffee. There's very few places that you're only going to find diner coffee in Washington State. Every little town has somebody who's delivering a quality coffee product some way or another.
Yeah, and you can call up places and place an order, and they'll come to you. There's a former intern of mine got in on the ground level a couple of years ago on a place called Coffee Now, and you call them up with your order, and they don't cater to individual orders. They want you to get 10, 15 people to place their order, and they'll drive their van to you and make the coffee right there. And wow. Come on over.
Is that in Yakima?
Yes, come on over. We'll set up shop at the stadium, and we'll get 15 or 20 friends. We'll place an order. We'll have them come out and deliver coffee to us.
That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
That's very cool. Okay. I'm driving through town. It's lunchtime. Where should I go for lunch?
Well, if you're driving through Yakima, you probably already know this because everybody knows this. Every sports team in the state and Idaho and Oregon already know this. If you're going for a burger, then you've got to go to Miners. And every sports team stops there. On a football Friday night, you'll see, 8 or 9 school buses out there. And so that's one place to go. My go-to place for a good steak is Waterfire Restaurant out by the airport, which has just great steaks. I also love the mac and cheese there. And one of my favorite things is macaroni and cheese. I know I'm not the only person in the world who loves mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese is awesome.
My favorite Mexican restaurant, and this is a point of contention with anybody who lives in Yakima because there are great taco trucks all across town, is Xochimilco. There are a couple of Xochimilco restaurants all owned by the same group in Yakima. My favorite is in the Valley Mall, and I was there just a couple weeks ago, and that's a good place for Mexican food. It's a great place for margaritas. I love that as well.
Let me put you on the spot. Why do you pick that one, and what's your go-to meal?
I picked that one, which is on the other side of town from where I live, but it's close to the ballpark, so that's right. Good too. I picked that one just because it used to be a different bar and restaurant, and one of my friends who now lives in the Seattle area, he was the marketing manager for the mall there, and so we would often go there after we got off work. Or on weekends. So I'm just familiar with that location and love that location. It's a great layout, great restaurant. My go-to is chicken enchiladas. I love chicken enchiladas.
All
Rice
right.
and beans, yes, and then a good margarita to go with it.
All right. And when you're not the general manager of the Pippins,
And
what do you like to do
when
for?
would that be exactly?
I the third Tuesday of November.
Maybe if it's the fourth Thursday on Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
maybe that day.
But what do you like to do for fun and entertainment when you're not being the GM?
I like to sleep. I would like to sleep more. Uh, that would really be nice. I forget what that's like at times, especially this time of year. I like to travel sometimes. Most of the time, I just do like to relax and read a book, listen to an audiobook, just kind of unwind.
All right.
Getting out of the day-to-day mindset of a GM is not something that's very easy for me to do. So I try and distract myself as much as I can with other types of stories, just so I can concentrate on that rather than concentrating on all the things that I know that I've got to get done before the next day, the next week, the next summer. And that takes a lot of work to distract me from that type of stuff.
Okay. One question that I totally forgot to ask, and I've asked everybody else, and this is bolting it onto the end is awkward. What's the Pippins philosophy on building the team?
Probably very similar to everybody else's. We want to get the best athletes from the colleges that we work with. We want to build new relationships with new colleges, new coaches, as much as we can every single year. But trying to build a winning team to some respect misses the point.
Okay.
You want to have success on the field. You want to win because that's how society measures success, by winning. And the wins and losses, more runs on the scoreboard. But as athletes grow and mature, and eventually find themselves out of the sport, as happens to every male, every female who participates in any competitive sport, really how you measure that win is in what they do next and what type of person they are. And so I think that one of the things that we really try and look for as much as we can when we're talking with college coaches and others is not, hey, how hard can he throw? How far can he hit a ball? How far can he run and catch a ball? Mm-hmm. Those things, when we're dealing with players at that level, who are being suggested to us, we know that they can play the game. Otherwise, they wouldn't be being offered to us or suggested to us.
Right.
But really where we will win in the long run is what type of a person are they? What type of family do they come from? What makes them want to get up every day and improve themselves? So we're really trying to foster that mental and emotional growth. As I said earlier, with becoming a better person, becoming a future husband, a future dad, a future coach, whatever their life after baseball in this instance is going to provide, we want them to really succeed at that. So if they're succeeding at baseball, that's great. That's also very temporary, although those memories will last with them. But if it's going to help them become a better person and a better community member and a community leader, that's really what's going to harken back to their days with the Pippins. And that's what people here will remember. Because we always keep track of people that, we grew up around or we remember. And if we can say, hey, that guy became, not just the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but that guy helped develop this with this group of people, and it changed the world or changed the community in this way or in this area. That's the type of person that we're trying to develop. And hopefully some of that shows up and results in home runs or strikeouts or wins for the Pippins and a division championship or a league championship. But in the long run, and I think that every other GM will, and really the coaches too, all the coaches would say, what they do with their lives after the sport is as important, if not more important, than what they're doing with us. We're just trying to help them along in that journey.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. What didn't I ask you that I should have?
Boy, that's a really open-ended question, isn't it?
I know. It's my catch-all. It just lets me,
I can't think of anything. It's really, I think that we could probably sit and talk about baseball in Yakima for, with me for days, just because
Sure.
It's been a part of my life ever since I can remember. And, mentioning like I did before about how the tendrils of baseball kind of, we're trying to weave it into a community, or weave it into this community. It's really permeated my life, my family's life. For during the great times, and during really tough times too. And so I think that hopefully, if we can provide the experience that we want for our fans and our community when the Pippins are in town for 32, 35 nights a year, hopefully it will help people not just during the good times, but it will also give them some hope, some basis that, hey, you can't win every game. And sometimes, even when you're winning, you're going to end up losing the game. But if you can be persistent, if you can keep a positive attitude, if you can keep your focus, not just, both on the here and now, but on the ultimate goal as well, then the sport will be really good to you. And one of the things my grandfather told me and my brother when we were very young, and he used some rather flowery language, which I will not use right now. But he said, basically, you don't try and cheat the game of baseball, because if you do, the game of baseball will cheat you. And that's very true. And like I said, he said it in a much more colorful manner. But that goes beyond baseball. It really applies to everything that we do in every profession, whether it's work related, whether it's in family life, personal lives. If you give your best, if you are honest about what you're trying to do, give it that honest try. Whether you win or lose is immaterial. You'll succeed. You will learn in the long run. And really having the opportunity to join the Pippins in the role that I am now in 2015, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't looking to make a change, but it is one of the best things that has happened to me. And I've met some incredible people inside this league, inside this company, and outside the league, that, I never would have had the opportunity to meet and interact with had I not made this move. And that's something that I'll always remember, that I was just so lucky to be able to have that experience that I just fell into. And now I can't imagine my life, baseball, in this iteration of baseball, not being part of my life.
Okay. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today, talk about the team, about the league, about you, Yakima. This has been a lot of fun for me. All these conversations, they've all been different yet similar, which is really, I like that, in the sense that every person, every GM, everyone that's in your position, all your peers that I've talked to, you all approach it similarly, but with your own personal style. Every single conversation has been refreshing and enjoyable. So thank you for adding to that for me. Selfishly, I'm enjoying myself. So that's what, I'm enjoying doing this. So that's wonderful. I wish your team success this year. I'm going to have to root for the Apple Sox because I'm going to be working for them this summer, but I wish you success until you play us. And then let's just have a great game.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
If I come up there, I'll bring you some coffee.
Oh, please do. Because honestly, Wenatchee's kind of lacking. I shouldn't say that, but I love Wenatchee. I love living here. We moved over here in 2017, and I enjoy that, but that's a topic for another day. So thank you for being on.
You're very welcome. It's been my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Join us next time for another episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast.